Hi guys, in this video you're going to be learning how to cut a straight skirt with butt sitting allowance. It is so simple, and if this is what you're interested in learning, keep on watching and let's get started. I have my paper on top the table, and on this paper I'm going to be drafting out both the front and the back together. I'll be coming down from the top of my paper to 1 inch, and that will be my starting point, and that starting point is also going to serve as my waist point. Okay, now after marking this out, I'm going to place my tape on this line and then mark down to the hip point, which is standard of 9 inches. Okay, most people use 9 inches, but you can as well make use of 8 inches. Now after this, I'm going to equally place my tape on this waist point and mark down to the knee point. Now to get your knee point, you're going to have to measure from your waistline to the knee point, your actual knee point, and after that you're going to minus 4 inches from it, and then you will get your exact knee point. So from my waist to the knee is 23 inches minus 4 inches. I have 19 inches, so I went ahead to mark out 19 inches. Now after this, I'm going to mark the length of my skirt. The length of my skirt for this particular tutorial, I'll be making use of 43 inches. Okay, now bear in mind that the length of your skirt all depends on the height of the client. Okay, so my skirt length here is 43 inches. I'm going to mark it, and after all this, we are going to connect all these points together. Okay, so now I'm going to start from the hip. I'll connect it horizontally just like this, and after marking out the hip, we are going to go down to the knee points. I'll mark it horizontally also. So we are just going to make this line visible enough. Okay, so guys, what we are marking out now are the vertical measurements, as you all know. Now after this, we are going to go ahead and start inputting all our horizontal measurements, which is our round waist measurement, the round hip measurement, and the round knee measurements. So these are all the 3 measurements you are going to be needing for your straight skirt. So guys, we are going to label all our points so that we won't get ourselves confused. And remember, I told you I was going to draft out both the front and the back on this same paper. So I'll be taking this part as my center back and then this part as my center front. Okay, so guys, we are going to have to draft out the front first. Okay, so I'll move over to the waistline, divide my waist circumference, which is 40 by 4, and then input that. Okay, so I'll input 10 inches right there, and then I'll be adding 1 inch for my dart intake. Now this depends on if you want to use a dart. If you don't want, please, you're going to have to neglect this 1 inch that I have just added. Now I'll move over to the hip. My hip circumference is 44, divide by 4. I'll be having 11 inches. I'll put it. Now I'll move over to the knee. My knee, I'll be minusing 1.5 inches from my hip. Okay, and that would give me 9.5 inches. I'll input that and then take it down to the length of my skirts. Okay, so exactly what I have on the knee was what I took down to the length, because this is not a pencil skirt. So guys, I went ahead to connect these points together. First of all, I connected my actual waist divided by 4 before connecting the dart. Now from the hip, I'm going to come down by 1.5 inches. You are still going to understand why I'm doing this. And from the knee, I'm going to connect it to this 1.5 inches and then use my curve to connect it back to the hip. Okay, this is just to eliminate any form of sharp curve around that part. Okay, and then after this, I'm going to now take it from the knee down to the length of my skirt. So you guys, you can see that we are done with the front. Okay, so here is our front skirt pattern. Now remember, I haven't added any sewing allowance. I'll be doing that on fabric, okay, whenever I want to sew this. Now I'm going to move over to the back because we are done with the fronts. And from the center back, first of all, I'm going to come in by 1/2 inch. Okay, so I'll be adding butt allowance of 1/2 inch. Okay, So after adding it, I'm going to connect the points together. So I added it from the waistline down to the length of the skirt. And after connecting these points, I'm going to equally come back to the waistline, and from this sitting allowance, I'm going to mark in 1 inch inward again, and I'm going to take it down from the waistline to the length of my skirt, and after that I'm going to connect the points together. Now let me explain something here. If you don't want to do yours the way I just marked in half an inch first of all before marking out 1 inch, you can go ahead and from the center back marking 1.5 inches, as long as you're going to remember everything that I just explained. Okay, so the half an inch is for butt sitting and the 1 inch is actually for zipper allowance. Now guys, I'm going to move over to the waistline. On the waistline, I'm going to divide my waist circumference by 4, mark it down, and then input 1 inch for that intake. I'll move over to the hip, divide my hip circumference by 4, mark it down, and then on the knee, I'm going to minus 1.5 inches from the hip, mark it down, and then take it down to the length of my skirts. So after this, I'm going to go ahead and connect all the points together. So you can see I first of all connected from the actual hip to the waist before connecting that of the darts, and then from the hip again I'm going to go down to 1.5 inches. I already told you why I did this, okay? And I'll connect from the knee to this 1.5 inches and then use my curve ruler to blend it up. So this will help eliminate any form of sharp curve around that part. You don't want to use a straight ruler to connect that particular point, okay? Now after this, I'll take it down from the knee to the length of my skirts, and you guys, that is it for the back block. Okay, now we are going to have to input our darts before we work on our sitting allowance. Okay, now for the dart, I'm going to be using the nipple to nipple measurement. So my nipple to nipple measurement is 9 divided by 2 is 4.5 inches. I'll mark it from the center front, and then for the depth of my dart, I'll be making use of 6 inches. So from the waistline, I mark down to 6 inches. And then after this, on this same line, I'm going to take it out half inch on both sides, which is the 1 inch extra that we added, okay, after inputting our waist circumference divided by 4. I hope you guys understand. Now I'm going to move over to the back, okay? And from this my 1 inch mark, I'm going to mark 4.5 inches inward and equally mark half inch on both sides. And then for the depth, I'm going to also use 6 inches for the back. Okay, now after this, I'm going to go ahead and connect all the points, as you can see. So we have our dart intake already marked out. Now we are going to work on our sitting allowance, and that is the main purpose for this tutorial. Okay, so let's go ahead and label it so that you guys will not get yourself confused. So this is my hip points, this is my knee points, and then my waist. Okay, so guys, now I'm going to move over to the center back. Okay, and on the hip line, I'm going to exhaust all the whole 1.5 inches, and on the waistline, I'm going to connect from the 1 inch zipper allowance to this 1.5 inches on the hip point. I hope you guys understand. Now, if you have a tummy, you want to, on the waistline, come up by half an inch before connecting to the 1.5 inches on the hip. I don't know if you understand me. And then after this, what I will do next is for me to, from the hip, go down to 5 inches. Okay, so I'll be going down to 5 inches, and I'll use my curve ruler to connect from this hip down to this 5 inches mark. Okay, so this is called the underbutt allowance. Okay, underbutt sitting. So guys, this is what it looks like, and I'm going to just blend it up to this point, the 1 inch mark. And yeah, that is it. So we are going to have to cut this out now, and after cutting out, we are equally going to insert our actual zipper allowance. I hope you guys understand. So take note of how I'm cutting this. It is very, very important. So guys, you can see that to cut out a straight skirt with butt sitting allowance is actually very, very simple, and I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Okay, now if you haven't subscribed to my channel at this point, you want to hit on the subscribe button so that you will get to see our tutorials for whenever I upload a new video, because in this channel every week I upload sewing tutorials. Okay, so you can see that I am cutting from the dart allowance. Okay, I see the way I'm cutting this. Just glue your eye to the screen and you're going to understand everything I am doing right now. Okay, also remember that I haven't added any form of seam allowance to this. Even the hemming allowance, I have not added it. Okay, I'll do that when I want to cut on fabric. So for the sitting allowance, you can see the way I'm taking it. I'm going to cut out like this, and yeah, I'll take it down to the hemline. So guys, as you can see, I am done cutting out the skirts. I'm going to go ahead and input my zipper allowance. So now from the waistline, I'm going to start marking in 1 inch all the way to the hemline, just as you can see me doing like this. Okay, for those of you that might be concerned, will this affect my skirt? Won't this make my skirt smaller? Don't worry, it is not going to affect your skirt in any way. Rather, it will bring out the shape of the skirt very well. Okay, and remember, this is where your slit allowance is also going to fall in. Okay, so I'm going to use my cuff to blend the dotted line properly so that it can be visible enough. Now once I get towards the knee point, I'm going to use my straight ruler to connect it just like this. Okay, so guys, you can see we are done with this skirts. I'm going to go ahead and label this the zipper allowance so that we won't get ourselves confused. And yeah, this is all for our back. I'm going to bring in the fronts, and to these fronts from the waistline I will go ahead and come down by 1 inch. Okay, so because this is a skirt, please do make sure you come down by 1 inch towards the center front and then connect it back to the waistline. And yeah, you guys, this is it. This is how to cut out your straight skirt with sitting allowance. It is that simple. And if you find this tutorial helpful, please give it a thumbs up, share it so that more people can get to see it. I will see you guys in my next one. Bye.